The pro wrestling finishing move, one of the most important aspects to a wrestling match, and when you really think about it, it's the one thing we're always building towards when watching a match. A finisher should be devastating, it needs to be strong, it needs to be impactful, or in the case of our submission specialists, it needs to be so excruciating that opponents have no choice but to give up. Every competitor needs a finishing move, and in the wacky world of pro wrestling, you best not copy anyone else's finishing move. Sure, you can recycle from superstars of the past, or you can get away with using someone else's finisher from a different wrestling company, but one of the key things about a finishing move is making it unique and making it your own. This creates a problem, of course, because it gets really difficult to innovate when practically everything's already been done inside the squared circle. So sometimes the grand finishing move that you or your trainer came up with turns out to be, well, not so innovative. It can look silly, it can look like it doesn't hurt at all, or it can look good, but when you really think about it, the move would probably hurt you more than your opponent. This is what we're going to look at today, pro wrestling's worst finishing moves, and I asked you guys to help me out with this one via YouTube community post because I'm pushing the heat right back to you. This is one of those videos I'd usually get destroyed for making because someone out there will live and die on the fact that Santino's Cobra is the greatest move of all time. So yeah, you only have yourselves to blame for this one, folks. This is easily the move that came up the most times when I reached out to you guys. The setup for the worm is a face buster, which 100% does more damage than the finisher itself. And then it's followed by Scotty 2 Hotty making a face like he just soiled his underwear. He hops along on one foot 4 times while the crowd chant WORM. And then Scotty, he does the worm. Following this, we get some weird karate arm flailing before Scotty delivers the offensive part of the move, a simple chop. And this is enough to score our man the pinfall win, usually. To be fair, the worm was more of a signature move rather than a finisher when Scotty wrestled in Too Cool, but still, he did use it in singles as his main move, and therefore it qualifies for this video. I certainly can see the appeal of the move, and it's all about the crowd having fun and the crowd getting involved. It is fun, especially for those inside arenas, but yeah, it's a chop. I think the vast majority of us know that it's actually a fun move, and it's not like Scotty was out there winning WrestleMania main events while performing the worm. One could argue that it makes people in the audience smile, and not many other moves include this kind of fan involvement. But if you consider how much it would actually hurt an opponent, yeah, you're being asked to suspend a whole lot of disbelief. It worked for Scotty, it worked for the goofy Too Cool tag team gimmick. Can't imagine Roman Reigns or Brock Lesnar ever trying to do it, but I'd pay good money to see them try. This falls into the same category as the worm, really. Rock said he first performed the people's elbow as a way to pop the boys in the back, and seeing as he kept doing it, the boys must have been laughing their asses off every week. As the move evolved, the Great One would set it up with a spine buster, he'd then look out at the crowd, kick his opponent's arm in place, and he'd throw his elbow pad into the audience before pointing every which way he was gonna run. From here he'd hit the ropes, stop in his tracks, and drop a unique elbow which also included Rock kicking his leg out beforehand. When you actually describe it like this and say it out loud, you do realise how silly it is. Why does he need to hit the ropes beforehand? Why does he kick his leg out before dropping the elbow? Why does this move win world championships when beforehand Rock was dishing out DDTs that only got him a 2? It's the magic of pro wrestling, I guess. You can keep fighting after getting your head planted on the mat, but an elbow drop from the standing position? That's just way too much. Again, I feel like I'm being a bit snarky here. I for one think the people's elbow is a fantastic move, and I especially liked it when Rock put different spins on the move, such as the slide he performed on SmackDown when Bulldog took the elbow, or the strut he did before Ric Flair fell victim to the move. It's the most electrifying move in sports entertainment, ladies and gents, but yeah, describe the move to a friend who doesn't care about wrestling and they'd probably laugh in your face. Yeah, I didn't need you guys to point this one out to me. I had it in mind when I was considering making this video, but I really didn't want to talk about it. Basically, Big Viscera, or Big Daddy V, whatever he was calling himself, he would perform a big splash on his unsuspecting opponent, he would then slap his opponent's ass, he'd spin around on top of his opponent, and yeah, it's really what we're seeing here. Back shots okay. Viscera gave his opponent shots from the rear, and this was enough to win matches. Now let's look at this objectively. Do you think you'd be able to walk again, let alone stand up after Big Daddy V took you from the rear? It's another violation, it's not nice, and I'm sure the humiliation would be enough to never show your face again in a wrestling ring. I'm sure there's many folks who also refuse to take this move. Could you imagine The Undertaker being asked to take the Visagra? I don't think so, mate. Kevin Sullivan's Stomp, or as I dubbed it on Reliving the War, Kevin Sullivan's little bunny hop, because that's exactly what it looked like. The setup for the move was a running corner attack while the opponent was hung up in the Tree of Woe. This is fine, nothing wrong at all. When the opponent was then on the canvas, Sullivan would perform a double foot stomp, and I don't know if it's because of Kevin's size or what, but it never ever looked impactful. It looked really soft, and somehow it won Sullivan a lot of matches. You'll commonly see wrestlers change their finishing moves or perform moves like this as they get older. You want a finisher you'll always be able to perform in a move that won't cause too much wear and tear to your own body. The good thing about the bunny hop was the fact that Sullivan could do it to practically anyone. The bad thing about the bunny hop was the fact that it looked like it didn't hurt at all, so in my opinion it just didn't work. The corner attack from the Tree of Woe looked better, and even that wasn't too great. If you're gonna do a double foot stomp, you need to be a giant, or you need to do it from the top rope like Finn Balor. Wee itty bitty Kevin Sullivan doing it from the standing position? Yeah, no thank you. Not to be confused with Lightning Foot Jerry Flynn, John Cena introduced his 6th move of doom, the Lightning Fist, while doing a WWE tour in China. He built it up by saying he was working with a Chinese martial artist. Fans were very eager to see what Cena had added to his repertoire, and basically it was a back fist. Nothing more, nothing less. Now, to be fair, John was absolutely being self-aware here. The move was only used a few times and he didn't intend on keeping the Lightning Fist forever. He was playing into the whole 5 moves of doom thing. He was hyping a tour for the WWE while speaking in Mandarin, and he had also performed the attitude adjustment before delivering this new move. You could argue that John was messing around with the integrity of his matches by using silly moves just for the memes, but then again, integrity and wrestling never did go hand in hand. It's also kind of funny that John could pummel his opponents with mounted punches beforehand and they'd get right back up, only to fall victim to one devastating punch later in the bout. The thing about Goldust's Shattered Dreams is the fact that it's such a blatant illegal move that it's actually a real hassle to set up. You want to kick your opponent in the balls? Okay, fine, but you better do it in a very sneaky, unsuspecting manner while the referee isn't looking. The fact that Goldust would go through the trouble of setting his opponents in the corner, putting their legs on the second rope, posing, and then kicking his opponent in the nutsack meant there had to be a very deliberate referee distraction set in place every time he wanted to perform the move. It got to the point where referees would just allow it, meaning Goldust was free to kick as many testicles as he liked while others would get reprimanded for it. It's another move that fans still popped for, without a doubt. Just the science behind setting up a deliberate low blow seemed like a lot of unnecessary work perhaps. To be fair, Rikishi's Stinkface wasn't his finisher and instead it was his signature move. The big man used the Rikishi driver to put his opponents away, but I still wanted to include the Stinkface here because someone brought it up and it's also highly ridiculous. Everything you need to know about this move is right there in the name. Rikishi would push his unearthly gigantic butt cheeks into his opponents' faces, yet it wasn't only done just for laughs. Opponents would actually sell the move afterwards like it caused them great distress or even a lot of pain. The smell of Kishi's rusty ring was enough to daze opponents and it made them easy pickings for the Rikishi driver. Again, not strictly a finishing move and it really shouldn't qualify for the video, but it does deserve to get mentioned. See, I'm a bit torn on Hulk Hogan's leg drop. On one hand, it's a finishing move tied to one of the most legendary performers in the business, and therefore the move itself becomes legendary in its own right. But then again, it's just a leg drop. If you got into wrestling during the 90s and you were seeing guys pull off power bombs, super kicks and moonsaults for finishers, then the big leg drop definitely looked weak in comparison. And along with this, many who watched Hogan's escapades in Japan knew he could do a whole lot better. That being said, Hulk used the Axe Bomber clothesline in Japan for a finisher, so yeah, maybe he just wasn't great at picking finishing moves. The Axe Bomber though, when done with a little force, still looked better than the leg drop in my opinion. I think the main problem with the leg drop is that it simply became too basic as time went on. A leg drop in wrestling became as common as a body slam or an elbow drop, but I will say that Hogan hulking up beforehand and the setup for the move was always a sight to behold. With the right crowd and the right atmosphere in the arena, the build up to the leg drop could be very special indeed. Also known as the play of the day, the playmaker in the O-Zone, this awkward move featured a pretty intricate setup for very little payoff, and it looked like it wouldn't hurt any more than a basic slam. Though I believe it's supposed to be more of a neck breaker? I don't know, but someone obviously thought the move looked good, seeing as it was reused as a finisher so many times. When Randy Orton had the move, he actually decided to stop doing it due to a recent shoulder surgery. He wanted a move he could do on anyone, and the fact that performing this move caused Randy concern over his own well-being tells you all you need to know. It had the potential to hurt the guy performing the move more than the guy taking the move, and on top of that, it just kinda looked terrible. It's difficult to work out exactly how this is supposed to hurt someone taking the move, but I will say this. Out of everyone who performed the move, I think Elix Skipper did it best. It looked a bit more snappy when Skipper hit the finish and there was a bit more torque behind the move. But it still wasn't great, was it? You guys certainly don't think so, and I don't think so either. The thing that bugs me about Shane Douglas's franchiser move is the fact that he had a perfectly good finish to begin with. The Pittsburgh Plunge looked great, it looked dangerous, yet when Shane introduced the franchiser, he relegated the Pittsburgh Plunge to a signature move and he instead tried to finish his opponents with whatever this is. Both Shane and his opponent are basically in the same position when they drop to the mat. Both men have their arm around each other's shoulders, so basically Shane's taken just as much impact as his opponent. It makes zero sense, and again, it's made worse because Shane's previous finisher was actually good. I guess he was thinking into the future and he thought he couldn't do the Pittsburgh Plunge forever. It's also one of those moves that could go horribly wrong, and maybe that's why he changed it. Still, no matter what way you try to explain it, the franchiser still looked bad. How would you like to be teabagged by Bastion Booger? They didn't even try to be subtle with Bastion's finishing move at all when they named it a trip to the Batcave, because, yeah, just look at it. Like Viscera's finisher, this is one of those moves that you probably couldn't get up and walk away from. The damage it causes would leave you never wanting to show your face on TV, and besides, your face would be covered with all sorts of herpes that you'd scare all the kids in the audience away. It's a move that's not supposed to be taken seriously. They gave it a silly name, it was created for a silly character. If you're taking Bastion Booger seriously, then you really need to reevaluate your life choices, but try explaining this one to your jaded friends in the bar. Hey, you should watch old WWF sometime. There used to be a wrestler that shoved his ball bag into people's faces to win matches. Yeah, wrestling's brilliant, fucking fantastic. The Berserker used to end matches by throwing his opponent over the top rope in order to get count-out victories. Now, hear me out, I like the idea of a wrestler going down a different route to win matches. Purposely trying to win via count-out and having a setup to consistently win via count-out is actually a good idea, and it's something that hasn't really been utilised in wrestling all that much. But the setup needs to be good. The Berserker setup? Well, he just stomped his opponents over the top rope and that was it. They couldn't get back in, there was no elaborate moves outside the ring, there was no witty setup involving Mr. Fuji, just throw him out and that's it over. Another issue arises when the Berserker wants to win a championship belt, but fortunately, or unfortunately, our guy didn't get many title opportunities. Again, it's not a bad idea, but it needs to have some thought put into it. Everything gets recycled in wrestling, and I do wonder why someone going for nothing but count-out victories hasn't been tapped into again since the Berserker. No doubt, Lex Luger's finisher got people on their feet and fans would marvel at some of the guys Lex was able to get on his shoulders. But there's no way the torture rack could be painful. You're lying across a man's shoulders while he gently bounces up and down in the middle of the ring. It wouldn't cause you a great deal of pain, it would cause you to get gently rocked to sleep. I guess if Lex kinda bent his opponents more or had them flat on their backs on his shoulders, then it could have looked better, but that's asking way too much and he'd only be able to do that kind of thing against certain guys. So yeah, while fans went crazy for it, especially when Lex was fighting the good fight in WCW, the torture rack just doesn't look like it would hurt. It wouldn't hurt at all. Yeah, you're funny, because if you're called the Booty Man and you're obsessed with arseholes, then you're going to perform a finishing move named the High Knee. Crappy joke aside, Ed Leslie's version of the running knee strike didn't even look all that good. For this kind of straight up knee strike, which was made popular by Harley Race, I don't think anyone did it better than Triple H, especially when his opponents ran straight into it at full speed. The Booty Man's knee strike looked incredibly basic, and the fact that the Booty Man gimmick was so lame just made his finishing move even less special. Nobody cared about the Booty Man, and nobody cared about his high knee finisher. Big Vito wore dresses when working in the WWE, don't ask. And one of the things he liked to do to his unsuspecting opponents was stick their heads up his dress before applying a key lock. The submission move would have been more than enough, of course, but we need to have that little extra by, once again, having a wrestler come face to face with the genitals of their opponent. What is it with wrestlers trying to shove their junk into their opponents' faces? Remember too that these guys are wrestling, they're sweating like crazy while inside arenas that probably don't have great air conditioning. You can only imagine the putrid smells that came from these guys, never mind their ball bags. There's a lot to be said for the Big Show's WMD punch. It's basically a knockout punch, just a straight punch to the face that knocks people out cold. Thing is, closed fists are supposed to be illegal in wrestling, though you could argue that a wrestler typically gets a 5 count to stop throwing closed fists, so yeah, we'll let it slide. What's maybe more curious about the WMD is the fact that the Big Show had a perfectly fine finisher beforehand. The chokeslam, or the Showstopper, looked truly devastating, and Show was able to put his own spin on the move by falling alongside his opponent. It was different from The Undertaker or Kane's chokeslam, and I just can't understand why he'd switch over to a knockout punch when he had a great finish to begin with. Also, the punch requires absolutely no setup. The bell could ring and Show could throw that punch in a matter of seconds if he really wanted to. So yeah, it's a move I didn't really like. A punch is just way too basic, and I understand that in real life getting knocked out from a punch is more believable than getting knocked out from a stone cold stunner. But this isn't real life, is it? It isn't boxing, it isn't MMA. I want to see cool finishers, damn it, and a punch just doesn't work for me, brother. For my money, no one delivered the spear better than Goldberg, and that's because Goldberg did not give a shit about protecting his opponents. Some would say Braun Breaker has a great spear too, but for me it's a bit too inconsistent. That spear at WrestleMania 42 was incredibly poor, and it was made even worse due to the big setup. Anyway, I always thought Edge's spear didn't look good at all, and it looked too soft. Goldberg would just smash into his opponents, and many times the move caused a whiplash effect that really did look devastating. For sure, it looked unsafe at times and it looked dangerous, but for a viewer watching at home and not the poor guy taking the move in the ring, it was always something you wanted to see. I like Edge a whole lot, and he's one of the best to ever compete in the ring. He's definitely levels above Goldberg, but his spear didn't have the same snap or impact. It's such a basic takedown move that to make it look good, you really gotta lean into the velocity of the collision, and well, sorry, but I didn't think Edge's looked all that good. Come at me, bro. I know it's not a finisher, but I'm legally obligated to bring this up once every 6 months, so here you go. The Yeti debuted in WCW and he performed one move that annihilated Hulk Hogan, so it must be pretty devastating. Yeti got in the ring, wrapped his loving arms around Hogan and proceeded to hump him. This, along with the Giant assisting from the front, was enough to put Hogan on the mat, so there you go. The Yeti walked so Viscera could run. Again, I know it's not a finishing move, but you guys mentioned it in that community post, so there you go. You guys filled up that community post with so many finishers, so if viewers want to see more, please go and check the post out. Thanks to everyone who offered suggestions, and I'll likely come back to this for part 2. Other moves suggested by you guys included Double J Stroke, Warrior's Run and Splash, the Soul Snatcher due to the setup required, the Garvin Stomp, which I don't think was actually Ronnie's finishing move, but yeah, that one was mentioned, the Cobra, Mr. Socko, the Judas Effect, the 3-point stance, and the Spanish Fly. So yeah, I'm likely to come back to this again if you guys want it. Thank you so much for watching everyone, have a good one, and until next time, please take care.